Hi, Mr. Andrew here, and we're talking about simple interest. And let me go ahead and write that equation for us. I equals PRT. So before we begin, what is interest? Well, sometimes we are loaned money, sometimes we loan out money. We are handing people money, and we don't expect just the amount we gave out. Sometimes we expect more back. The cost of getting that money, well, it depends on how long they have it. So here, if we're looking at this, simple interest, which is not often used in real life anymore, we often use compounded interest, especially at the banks. But here, simple interest, if I look at this, P is principal. R is the rate, and we'll want to write this as a decimal, not as a percent. We can't actually use the percent forms here. And T, well, that's just time. It depends on how long you have the money. So here, if we use this as our key, we can really start working these problems immediately. Now, one thing we have to know is principal, that's the money. Okay? Rate, we need that as a decimal. And also, something that goes without saying is if I give someone a rate, it's almost always an annual rate. I actually have to tell them if it's otherwise. So therefore, time has to be in years. Okay? So maybe that means we'll have to do a little conversion. Okay? Now here, if we look at this, let's work a basic problem. Let's say I loan out the principal, I loan out $10,000. I say the rate, well, you owe me 5% of that every year. So the time I let them have it for is 3 years. So here, if we start moving this forward, we just start plugging it in to the original equation. So let's move this down a little bit. P equals 10,000, R equals 5%, T equals 3. So if I want the simple interest, then they have $10,000. The rate, 5%, I need to write that as a decimal, so 0.05. If that's confusing, just go back and watch the video on changing percents to decimals. And here, 3 years, well, that's 3 years. So here, if I want to multiply this out, and let's say I don't want to do the long multiplication, even though it's not that long. It's really only going to be $500 for 1 year. But if I didn't know that, this is where it's acceptable to use a calculator. So if I wanted to, I can bring out my trusty little calculator and work this out. So here, if I want to work this out, 10,000 times 0.05 times 3, that's $1,500. Again, 500 for every year. So $1,500. This is the amount of interest you owed. Now that doesn't mean that's all the money you're going to have to pay. You're probably going to have to pay the original back. So here, you really have to read into the questions whether it wants the full amount being paid back or if it just wants the interest. They're different. So here, let's try a little bit more advanced problem. Let's try another one. So if I loan out, let's say $7,000. I loan out $7,000. Let's pretend I have that amount of money. And I want to loan that out at a rate of 4.5%, 4.5% for a period of 20 months. Okay, now here is where it gets interesting because well, that's the interest. P is the principal, so that's 7,000. I have the rate of 0.045. I moved the decimal 2 to the right, or 2 to the left, I'm sorry. 20 months, well, that's 20 over 12, technically, because there's 12 months in a year. So what I actually have to do is I actually have to calculate this value first. I have to take 20 divided by 12. And again, it's all right to use a calculator on these problems if you're able to, because we're not, again, testing on the multiplication and division. That was in previous sections. So here, looking at this, I'm going to say, what's 20 divided by 12 first off? And then I'll multiply it to the other two numbers. and I'm able to do this because of the commutative property. It does not matter the order in which I multiply numbers. So here, I first find 20 divided by 12, and then multiply by 0.045, and I multiply by 7,000. I'm just doing this on my little trusty calculator. What do I get? 525. So they would owe $525, whoever I loan that money out to, in addition to the 7,000, because I'd want my 7,000 back. I just wouldn't be like, here's $7,000 for $525, you know. But if you have any questions or any problems, just don't hesitate to contact me. You can reach me by email always. Thank you.